I've gone over the best and worst tunes in many different game series, but today we're going to do something a little different. I'm joined by Wyvrn, and we did the impossible task of choosing what we believe to be the worst music track from some of the best video game OSTs of all time. Let's start off with a super tough one, Undertale. You weren't expecting to see a video of the best game OSTs and not see Undertale, right? Admittedly, I didn't finish Undertale for a long time. I started it all the way back in 2016, but just finished it months ago. But I've always known how fantastic the soundtrack is. Like, of course, 16-year-old me in 2019 thought the Megalovania meme was super dank, but after actually playing this game, I realized how well-rounded it truly is. The popular picks would probably be something like Long Elevator or Ooh, but they're mostly noises that would make for a boring video, so I'm gonna go with Dating Tense. Kind of just underwhelming to me. Doesn't play that long, but long enough where I can count it with it not just being like a short jingle, and doesn't really try out any ideas. It's not particularly catchy or memorable, and when your worst track is just kind of mid though, you're doing something right. This video does well. I'll do the same thing for the best tracks, so like and subscribe if you want to see that. For anyone who's watched any of my videos, you know how much I rave about the soundtrack for both Mario Galaxy games. Hearing music from these games pretty much puts me into a flow state. I love the grand orchestral sound and how lively the music sounds here, and I can't ignore my own nostalgia. I can't pick one game without the other here, so for Galaxy 1, it's going to be ball rolling, which of course plays in the level where the ball doesn't roll. Kidding, but this track is just pretty boring to me. I mean, it's cool how it speeds up when you speed up, but it's just really meh and just sounds repetitive. Doesn't really build towards anything either. Now for Galaxy 2, I'm going with Tip TV. It really isn't trying to be much, but qualifies as an actual track. It's just the synth sound playing over and over the whole runtime. Not unpleasant to listen to or anything, but easily the most boring and forgettable track in the entire Mario Galaxy duology. By the way, I've made multiple videos going over the best and worst Mario music for quite a few different Mario series, so go check those out after. Ocarina of Time is my favorite Zelda game, and I cannot wait to see what Nintendo does with music in the remake. It's hard to spend any 5 minutes in the overworld without hearing some iconic piece of music, but having to pick a worst tier, I'm gonna go with the battle theme. It's the music whenever you fight enemies out in Hyrule Field. It's just a short, frantic loop that doesn't really develop into anything, and you hear it pretty constantly. I also want to be clear that the actual worst track in this game is probably Dodongo's Cavern or Jabu Jabu's Belly, which is very disturbing. But that's basically cave drums and squishy sound effects for Jabu Jabu, and calling either of them a full track just feels like a cop-out. Battle theme at least tries. So when I set out to make this list, I limited myself to only 2 Zelda games, which was really tough because there's probably like 10, if not more, that deserve a place here. But I already covered all these in another video, and I don't want to repeat myself the whole time here. I decided to go with Skyward Sword as my other pick because it truly has a beautiful OST. My least favorite here is Din's Power harp version. It's one of the short melodies you play on the goddess harp during the Song of the Hero quest. It's soft, descending, calming. It's kind of hard to explain. It's not that long, it's just a completely frantic track that sounds like you've never picked up a harp before and you're just randomly trying to play it. I think it's pretty much on purpose, but it doesn't change the fact that it is my least favorite music track in this game. As a sax player and big band enthusiast, I absolutely adore 3D World's OST. This might be a hot take, but I actually like the soundtrack even better than Mario 64 overall. It's not quite at Galaxy's level, but this is probably my next favorite in the series. Maybe I am overreacting by considering the soundtrack to be an all-time great, but it's my video. With that being said, my pick is Plessy's Song. It fits the level, but doesn't really push beyond that. The melody is simple, the structure is short, and the loop comes very quickly. It basically supports the experience without elevating it. In another Mario game, this would blend in fine, but in 3D World, surrounded by countless bold and energetic compositions, it just feels underpowered. I'm not really a big Persona fan, but I'll be the first to say all these games have some really great music, and I wouldn't argue with you if you wanted to have a couple of them in this video. I decided to go with 5, and while it has a ton of bangers, there's actually a track here I just do not like, and it's Mementos. It just sounds really uncomfortable and has this droning quality to it that I just don't enjoy. I can see why someone would like the terrifying quality of this though, but it's not for me. The first thing Shadow of the Colossus fans usually mention when they bring up this game is the music. Its music is orchestrated and feels like it's straight out of some fantasy movie where characters have British accents. Does that make sense? Probably not. But it was really hard to find a worst tier because there's no bad piece in this game. Literally no matter what I pick here, someone will get mad and say it's their favorite track. So I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off and say Creeping Shadow. Doesn't even feel right to make this pick, but I honestly just couldn't think of anything else. Cuphead is a game with another super distinct soundtrack, and I may suck at the game, but I've always admired the rubber hose art style and the ragtime feeling of the music, even the barbershop quartet music. I may sound like a broken record saying this, but there's truly no bad song in this game, so I'm just gonna choose Tutorial. You may remember this from that one game journalist not being able to get over an obstacle here, but that isn't what we're here for. The tutorial tune is a really nice listen, but it is unfortunately just the least memorable thing here for me. Like, I don't really know what else to say here. Akira Yamaoka created the legendary Silent Hill 2 OST in the early 2000s, and then just made it even better in a remake, at least in my opinion. Even beyond how great the music sounds, it all just goes so perfectly for what it's used for. This is an interesting one for me, because I wouldn't put most of these on a soundtrack, and I wouldn't listen to too many of them on their own outside for a video, but that doesn't mean they aren't great. Think of something like Black Fairy. I highly doubt anyone's walking around listening to this. Or you know what, who am I kidding? There's gotta be some madman who walks by himself at night in the fog just listening to this. There's almost something a little relaxing about this at the same time of being unsettling, and now I'm getting off topic. UFO ending's my pick. This is for one of the joke endings, and it's clearly meant to be goofy. It has that staticky sound and feels like it's right out of a 1950s sci-fi show. It sounds the way it does very intentionally, so I almost don't want to pick it, but I just don't know what else I could pick here instead. When it comes to Mario Kart, you're always going to hear great music. I've already gone over the best and worst music tracks here also, and I know I've done these video shoutouts like 3 times, but I just love video game music. I knew I wanted to include a Mario Kart game, and it came down to World and 8 Deluxe. I think 8 Deluxe has the better original music, meaning tunes that aren't remixes and are original to this game, or I should say to the original Mario Kart 8. But anyway, World has over 350 individual pieces and so many fantastic remixes and covers of music from the entire Mario series, not just Mario Kart. It also has some of the best music from 8 regardless. After listening to this OST again, I still had the same choice for this game, and it's DS Desert Hills Route. It's just very boring and repetitive, and not much else I have to say about this one, other than I actually do like Desert Hills in the original Mario Kart DS. Everyone knows how great Minecraft's music is, and everyone has a favorite. Most people haven't actually thought about what the worst is when you have most of the music here blessing your ears the whole time. I also want to say I'm not going to pick something like Disc 11 or 5, because those are just noises, not actual music, like come on. I'm going to go with Below High here. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it just sounds very unnerving, and the sound effects here just make me feel uneasy. Like, I was only able to listen to this for a little bit before I had to turn it off, because I really just do not like it. You knew there would be a Pokemon game featured in this video, and you can make arguments for a bunch of games, but I personally really like Black and White's OST. My selection for the worst song in Black and White is going to be controversial, but I really don't understand why, especially compared to the highs of what else is here. The Gets This battle theme is incredibly underwhelming and boring. It sounds like a badly inspired version of Sephiroth's battle from Final Fantasy VII. Despite Ghetsis essentially being the main villain of the game, this theme attempts at being menacing, but just ends up being very lackluster to me. It also doesn't help that the fight with N has some of the best battle music in all of Pokemon. If I had a nickel for every time I bought an indie game with an amazing soundtrack that came out in the mid to late 2010s but didn't actually finish it until the past year, I would have 2 nickels because, like with Undertale, I started Hollow Knight on PC after getting this indie box copy of it. But for whatever reason, I didn't get far until last year and actually got hooked on it. I could go on about the gameplay, the aesthetic, and everything else, but man, the music here is incredible. City of Tears and Sealed Vessel are 2 of my personal favorites, and it was super difficult to find anything that wasn't amazing. However, super difficult doesn't mean impossible, because I don't love Dream Battle. The beginning makes it seem like it's going to be so good with a low string sound with a really orchestral vibe, but it just never goes anywhere. It just repeats the same few bars over and over and over again with some slight variation in the background. Just a pretty forgettable track. So I'm going to have a lot more games to go over, but let me hand the mic over to Wyvern for a bit to go over some of his favorite video game OSTs of all time.
So for my contribution to the video, I've decided to choose 4 of my favorite soundtracks ever made. It's going to be very hard to find anything bad about these video game soundtracks, obviously. I mean, that's the point of the video. But first, I will talk about Donkey Kong Country 2. David Wise is, in my opinion, the most unique and creative composer I've ever listened to, in the sense that he looked at this little Nintendo platformer about cartoon monkeys and somehow gave it the most amazing emotional melodies and chord progressions that we have ever gotten from this kind of game. And you probably already know a decent bit of the music from this game, so I'm just gonna cut to the chase and talk about my least favorite from the game, and it's a composition called Stickerbush Symphony. Okay, I'm joking, relax. It's Mining Melancholy. Okay, it's called Bad Bird Rag. I don't even remember where this plays in the game, but the majority of the runtime is essentially just the same 4-measure phrase over and over again, except it progressively reaches a higher key. I find this to be exceptionally lame to listen to compared to other gems in the OST. It isn't the worst thing I've ever listened to or anything, but at the very least, one of the weaker compositions that David Wise has ever made for these games. So Domainie already talked about Hollow Knight a few minutes ago, but now I am going to talk about the sequel to that game, Hollow Knight Silksong. Silksong has better music in my opinion. Sure, it may not be as iconic since the game just came out, but the instrumental and harmonical quality is just much better, and I truly think Christopher Larkin has gotten even better at composing. But that said, my least favorite track in Silksong is Underworks. This plays in the Underworks area, and I can't really say that it's bad. It's just atmospheric music that plays in an area that I don't particularly care about to begin with. I do think this area theme had much more potential though, because even the previous game I talked about, Donkey Kong Country 2, has a lot of different area atmospheres in that game, and every single time the music just nails it in different ways. But with this particular track in Silksong, it's just very replaceable and unmemorable in an area that's already one of my least favorites in the game. Christopher Larkin has made so many beautiful pieces for not just this game, but both of the Hollow Knight games, but this one seems to have been more of an obligation to compose rather than one of the big ones he was excited to make. Of course, I cannot speak for him, only he would know, but still, it ain't one of his best. So next I actually want to cover yet another Super Nintendo game. Look, it's one of my favorite consoles. Now we already talked about DKC2, and there's really only one other game on that console that can compete in terms of music, and that is Chrono Trigger. I've never been a huge Square Enix guy growing up, so this was the very first Square game I played, and I think I'm a fan now because it was perfection to the very end. As somebody born in 2006, this game is not really revisited by my generation the same way as retro games like Mario 64 and Doom, despite this game absolutely being of that same kind of quality. But whether or not it's popular among people my age, the mark that its music left on video games can still be felt today, even if you never noticed. You see, the composer Yasunori Mitsuda popularized a musical fragment known as the Mitsuda's Lick, which nowadays you can hear across all sorts of gaming franchises like Kirby, Undertale, even appearing very often in Pokémon Black, a game we talked about in today's video. Anyway, there is a lot to say about Chrono Trigger and its amazing soundtrack with just unfathomable creativity and harmony, but there is one track that I kinda agree with Domainie on, and yeah, I agree that it's fairly unforgettable compared to the others, and this is going to be Ayla's theme. Ayla is already a character in this game I don't care too much for, but she does have an interesting origin, being a human you meet in prehistoric times. The thing is, her music theme doesn't really feel like it incorporates anything about that. The composition just doesn't sound primitive enough, especially compared to the other compositions from this area of the game that definitely prove that Mitsuda can make stuff that fits this environment. The rest of the music from this time period all sound very jungly and primitive, but Ayla's theme could have been more interesting, and it's not to say that it's bad, it sounds nice enough. It's just in a game where 95% of the music perfectly encapsulates what's happening in the game. This theme could have told us more about the character's origins. For example, Robo's theme has electronic clank noises in the beginning, since he's, you know, a robot. Overall, let me know in the comments what you would have went with. But yeah, to me personally, Ayla's theme is the least interesting composition in the game, and it's really just because the competition is so high. So to end off my role in the video, the next game is going to be my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. I mean, I think. It gets hard to choose sometimes. But that title for now has got to go to Claire Obscure Expedition 33. This game released last year and just blew my mind with its orchestra. Pretty much anything this game threw at me musically, I either just already really enjoyed or was just forced by the game to acquire a new taste for. It was just beautiful. The best music I've ever heard in my life. Which reminds me, how am I gonna find a track to call my least favorite? It's really hard for me to decide this since not only are there over 170 tracks in the OST, but every single one of them kicks ass. So I'm just going to have to go with one that I remember being not as impressive. And that is World Map Forlorn. So this plays when you're walking around the overworld during the first act of the game, and it's not bad at all, it's just the less good version of a theme you hear in the next chapter. It still absolutely works with the atmosphere of the game, and especially how melancholic it is. It's just not nearly as musically interesting as other tracks in the game. And again, there is a better version later on, so yeah, if you have your own opinion on what the worst track from this game is, please let me know in the comments, because I will admit, I drew a pretty long blank when trying to find one. It is the best gaming soundtrack I've ever listened to. Maybe that'll change as I play more and more turn-based games, because I don't know why, but every turn-based game I played just completely slaps in terms of the soundtrack. Well, everybody, that was it for me. It was an honor to be a part of Domainie's video, especially since it's about one of my favorite things of all time, gaming music. I do have my own channel, or rather channel, since I do run two of them, those being Wyvern and Super Joshua 06. If you like video essays just like this, I recommend Wyvern. If you like gaming commentary or gaming news, check out Super Joshua. Anyway, thanks, and enjoy the rest of the video.
Souls games are known for their soundtracks, and a lot of people consider Bloodborne to have the best. Although I'm sure someone is commenting now about how I made the wrong choice. Regardless, while I've never finished Bloodborne since I don't seem to have the patience for these games, I've listened to all these OSTs, and for Bloodborne especially, it's just really something else. It just sounds so epic, like epic in the grand orchestral sweeping piece of music track, not like the 2012 slang word way. There wasn't much to pick as the floor of this OST, but I guess it has to be Celestial Emissary. It's perfectly fine, but kind of forgettable and not very complex. The whole Nier series is full of top tier music, but I'm just going to be focusing on Nier Gestalt and Replicant here. And also, I actually do want to clarify that I've actually never played this series. I do have a copy of Nier Automata on PS4, but I haven't actually gotten around to it. So let me know what game I should start with in the series and if it's worth it. With that being said, my least favorite here is Bluebird. It's not boring, and it really does try a lot, but I just do not like how it sounds for whatever reason. The entire Xenoblade series can probably be here, like with quite a few games I've already gone over, but I decided to just go with the original here. There are actually a few tracks I don't love here, so this wasn't the hardest one in the video to figure out. It's Ether Mine. It's bland, repetitive, basically just boring. The soundtrack is massive though, so I can't really blame it for every one of the 90 plus tracks be a hit. Just like it's impossible to agree on the single worst track across all these games, it's probably even harder to agree on which Final Fantasy has the best soundtrack. This series has way too many incredible options, and no matter what I pick, someone's gonna say it should have been 6, 7, 10, 13, 14, 15, or something else entirely. That's the problem with conversations like this. People sometimes treat their personal favorite like it is the objectively correct answer. I'm not claiming mine is, and I haven't played every game in the series, but out of the ones I have experienced, I'm going with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Alright, enough reasoning with people on the internet since that doesn't really work out. I'm just gonna get right into my pick. It's the Turks theme. I just found it to be pretty underwhelming. It has some cool guitar parts, but I barely even remembered it until I re-listened to this OST. Also, for everyone who says Wall Market is the worst, no, just no. Castlevania Symphony of the Night has a very varied soundtrack, and I'm just gonna say my least favorite here is not I Am the Wind. Yes, it doesn't fit the game at all, but it is not a bad song. It's Door to the Abyss. I would say it counts and isn't just ambient music, although you could definitely argue it. It fits its location well, but I just don't particularly like how it sounds. It just feels like a bunch of random instruments and noises thrown together to make you feel uneasy. Deltarune Chapter 5 recently came out and added to an already stellar collection of music. Like if you go to any of the videos on Toby Fox's YouTube channel, you'll literally see his concert dates there. You don't have people buying your concert tickets as a video game composer unless your music is really that good. Anyway, reminder that I'm not counting anything like Concert for You or Weird Birds because this is not really music. There's just so many that are noises or like 2 seconds long, so I'm gonna pick Soundtrack. which to be fair, you could also say doesn't count because it's supposed to be, as the name says, a soundtrack. I'm still picking it though. And as for why I'm picking it, I mean, it's pretty obvious. As someone who's never been big into the Mega Man series, I still felt like I had to include a Mega Man OST, and I opted to go with the classic Mega Man 2. 3 and 4 would definitely be good picks too, though. Honestly, even for an NES game, it was really hard to find one arrangement here that just isn't a banger, but I did find it, and it's Wily Fortress 2. NES games couldn't really have that much going on at once and would make up for it by simply being catchy. And this one is not catchy. It's basically the same thing over and over again and just doesn't sound particularly good either way. When you think of an intense video game soundtrack, you probably think of Doom. Maybe you think of Doom Eternal or one of the classics, but I think of Doom 2016. This game is at its best when it's something you could PR to at the gym. Origin Energy is just like the build-up music and not much more. This honestly might just be atmospheric music, but there's quite a few tracks in Doom 2016 that are like this, so I'm still gonna go with this. Alright, if you really want me to pick another one, I'm just gonna say it and move on. My hot take is Flesh and Metal. There's about 10 Sonic games you could probably choose as the best, but some people who are much bigger Sonic fans than me, Sonic Adventure 2 had the best soundtrack. So I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it's what I'm going to be going with here. The worst for me came down to 2 very different songs. One is Deeper Death Chamber and Kick the Rock Wild Canyon. I'm going to pick Death Chamber though. Like, it's just bad. Kick the Rock is bad, but in like a corny rap type of way. Like, it sounds like something Robbie Shapiro would try to freestyle to at a party. Death Chamber just is even worse to listen to. We're getting close to the end of the video, and you may be wondering where Halo is, but wonder no more, because now it's time to tell you the worst song in Halo 2. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of atmospheric tracks, so it took a while to sort through until I actually found one I didn't like that wasn't just ambience. My hot take is Heretic Hero. This is a step up from ambient music, but it's hard to pick a full track from this game since it's all just so good. This is just what I ended up settling on. On to Earthbound, it's inside the dungeon. What actually is this? The soundtrack is so legendary, and then you have maybe one of the worst pieces of music in a Nintendo game. I should honestly reconsider Earthbound even being on this list, because what is this? Now let's end the video with the big boy of video game soundtracks, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. With DLC included, this game has over 1,000 tracks, and of course it's not all original, most of it is remixes or brought over from other games. Like, Sakurai is a madman, but not that insane to have over 1,000 unique tracks composed for this. While a lot of the remixes and tracks brought back here are incredible, there are a few duds here like the Game & Watch song, but my pick here is going to be 25M. It is just the same few notes over and over again instead of a remix. Like, I understand they probably wanted a classic Donkey Kong tune, but again, you could have remixed it. Was this really that necessary to include? And that is the worst music track in some of the best gaming OSTs of all time. Before you click off, wait 1 second. Like I said earlier in the video, if this video does well, we're gonna make the best music in the best OSTs, so subscribe, like, and comment if that's something you want to watch. I'm also open to adding more games in that video that didn't make the cut here, so try and convince me your favorites deserve a place in the video. You can also join the Domainie Discord and try to convince me on the server. Now I just want to give a big thanks to Wyvern for joining me on this video. Check out both his channels that are linked in the description and tell him I sent you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.